As he placed me into the water, I felt the burning sensation rise up my whole body. The pain was as intense as the heat. I felt my almost lifeless body fade, as my chest tightened with such pressure. I found it hard to breathe, and then what happened in such a speed, it is difficult to recollect with great accuracy. The black-hooded man had let go of me, to let me sink into the boiling water, when by fortune it seemed my feet had placed itself on an object within the cauldron. And I managed to get out, but it was not with my own stealth, I am sure of it, and this may haunt me forever. As when in those brief seconds I looked to see what was keeping me out of the water, I saw something so gruesome, that to even speak its name sends shivers down my spine. I had managed to place myself upon the shoulder of the last victim he had placed inside the cauldron, who to my horror was not yet dead. At least I am sure that I saw his face stricken with pain, as if he was still alive. Despite there being no flesh and bones missing, I swear I saw his face move as he pushed me out. But I cannot be sure. Maybe it was a movement caused by me entering the water and my legs had sprung me out. As the survival side of my body kicked into action, it is a thought that shall haunt me forever, whether I was saved or I saved myself from the doom that almost certainly had my name engraved on it, like the tombstone of a dead man. I found myself on my feet, looking upwards towards the black-hooded man, who seemed to tower before me. He let out a warring cry that sent bits of mud falling from the walls. I had angered him, and in this he seemed to have grown, far more evil than I had ever seen him. His face had returned to its dark black complexion, with its smooth sides, and in height too had he grown, his arms rippling with muscles that could crush a man's head. With his cry, the wall started to crumble, and from within, the bodies that he had mutilated for his food arose in defense and honor and started to rally around him. I was panic-stricken, unable to move, as the skeletons of death walked and crawled towards me, and started to pull at my clothes and rip with their bony fingers pieces of my flesh. I knew that if I was to survive this ordeal, I would have to face the beast that grew in front of me, his body ever growing and growling like a dog that had gone mad with rabies. But the place I was in had strange properties, and possibly if my mind was put to the test, I could enhance them. For this place had a time of its own, and was not confined to that which happened above it. I had to put my faith in this, but I had not much time. I was losing blood as each skeleton tore my flesh. The hooded man growled again, and his fist smashed a hole straight through the muddy clay wall, and dust fell down amongst us. It was in this time I rushed up towards the cauldron that was burning hot, and with all my strength began to lift it. How this power came to me I cannot say, but one has heard such things when a man, when struck with fear, when in need of incredible strength, can harness it. And so as the dust cleared, and I saw him come towards me, I gave one final push to lift the cauldron up high enough, and then launched it in the air right into the path of the black-hooded man. He fell to the ground, and with that more of the wall came tumbling down. The skeletons immediately dropped to the ground, and I was free to move closer to the now fallen beast. I knew I did not have much time, for his fall had weakened the walls of the chamber and would collapse, entombing everything forever. I had to be sure he was dead, for a man cannot live whilst fear is always behind him. For what I am about to explain, I have a certain reservation, for it seems bestial what I was forced to do, with my bare hands and teeth, I ripped through the tight skin of the chest cavity and broke through his ribs with punches and kicks, and with my teeth cut the very arteries that fueled his heart, until his heart was severed and gave its final pump within the palms of my hand. With that done, I ran from the chamber, the black-hooded man's final resting place. And as I did so, I heard the cave fall in on itself, and dust filled the whole vicinity. When it cleared, I found myself within an underground passageway. It looked disused and was dark, and had wires falling from above. The wall was missing their usual white tiles, and revealing the bare wall, I carried on running through the tubeway and onto the first train that came. Looking at its destination, I found it was in the Elephant and Castle area. Once inside, I sat down with a thump. It was then I checked my face, for before, when I'd looked, I had aged considerably, but now my face felt young and smooth again. Was my soul mine again? I looked around the train to find it abandoned. There was no one else to be seen as I went through the dark passageways of the underground station. I started to see from within the darkness outside things that at first I could not make out. I got off my seat and knees first perched on the chair on the other side by the glass window and looked closer to the darkness outside to see what these things I had seen from the corner of my eye. And it was then, with great horror, I saw goblins, apparitions, the bones of dead beings, almost swimming or sliding is the best description of what they were doing across the muddy walls that lined the passageways. I felt the sense of extreme claustrophobia, as I was trapped within this little metal cage, hurtling through these dark passageways at great speed. No way of getting out, no way of stopping until the next station was reached, and there, outside, following the train, were these impish creatures, formed of what once must have been human. And it was quite clear their final destination was me.